What's up, y'all? It's your girl Veronica, and we are back hitting y'all with more games so you can run the play and make sure that you can transition successfully into project management. Now, before we even get started, I want to tell y'all that I hear the craziest things. People are always coming to me asking, don't I have to be a Scrum Master to get into project management? Don't I have to have a degree? Don't I have to work in tech? Honey, no. Who are these people telling y'all this? These are blatant lies. So we thought it would be good to drop the 5 most common myths about transitioning into project management. And I'm going to give y'all all the games so that you can run the play. So if you're looking for the 5 most common lies that you hear about trying to get into project management, honey, stick around and let's break them down. Number one biggest lie that I hear is that you have to have a degree to be a project manager. Wrong. That is a blatant lie, okay? The beautiful thing about project management is that it's a skill set. And to be honest, the workforce is shifting into a skill set based economy. That means the days of having to go out and get a degree are slowly dwindling. Honestly, for the past 14 years, year over year, enrollment in 4-year educational institutions has decreased. And you know what's increased? Alternative education. That means boot camps, that means certifications, because we are transitioning into a skill set based workforce. The beautiful thing about that for us is that project management is a skill set. You absolutely do not have to have a degree to be a project manager. Now, if you've already shelled out all the money and you have your 4-year degree or you have your master's or you have your PhD, look, I'm not hating on you. You can absolutely leverage what you've learned in school, but don't feel like you have to go and get a project management degree or a master's in project management for you to make the transition. You can transition right now with what you have instead of having to go and shell out tens of thousands of dollars to jump into this new career path. All right. So that's myth number one. Now, I want to follow that up by saying if you are trying to transition and you don't have a degree, a great way for you to do that is through certification. Depending on how much work experience you have and how much project-oriented work experience you have, there's a couple different options here. And I want to touch on those just so you guys know how to move going forward. Now, if you don't have any project-oriented experience, all right, nothing at all, then it would help for you to go to PMI and get what we call a CAPM. That's a Certified Assistant Project Manager certification. That's going to give you the entry-level skill set that you need to jump into a project coordinator role or a junior project management role, feeling confident and knowing that you have what it takes to succeed. Now, let me stop right there. Getting the CAPM is not going to get you $100,000, okay? It's not. But you'll probably land somewhere between 50 and 75, and honestly, that's not bad money, especially if you're trying to get in, okay? So that's the perfect place that you can use to kind of build that strong foundation while you sharpen up your skill sets ahead of that. Now, if you have some pretty extensive project-oriented work experience, then you can skip the CAPM and go straight to the PMP. That's the Project Management Professional Certification, and that is going to be what helps you break into that 6-figure role. Because on average, PMP certified individuals make $120,000 a year. And honey, that's the big bag, all right? Now, it may not be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. Don't come for me in the comments. But 120K is not a bad place to start when you're making a career transition. So just keep that in mind. All right, so very first myth that we just busted, you do not need a degree to be a project manager. If anybody comes at you with any of that, go ahead and just ignore them or shut them up. They're full of it and they don't know what they're talking about. Those are just facts. All right, it's all cap. Now, number 2, second most common myth that I in project management is that if you're going to be a project manager, you have to work in tech. Honey, the lies, the lies, the lies. That is all fake. None of that is real. Now, that is the most common industry that people know about that uses project managers. But to be honest, project managers work in all industries. It's not just tech. You can be a project manager in education. You can be a project manager in finance. You could be one in healthcare. You could be one in construction. You could be one in aerospace engineering. There's project managers in every single sector, in every single industry. A lot of y'all come to me, we get on the consultation calls, and you're like, man, I really want to be a project manager, but I really don't want to work in tech. Honey, the goal is not to work in tech unless that's what you actually want, okay? We don't ever want to reinvent the wheel. What we want to do is leverage your skill set and your experience that you already have. So if your background is in healthcare, you can go into a healthcare project manager role. You don't have to go into tech. If you want to go into tech and still leverage your healthcare background, then you can go into health tech. Yes, that's a thing. The same way that ed tech is a thing, the same way that fintech is a thing for all my finance girlies out there. You have so much flexibility and so many options that you never want to constrain yourself to just one industry. So if people tell you that to be a project manager, you have to work in tech, just keep in mind that's all cap. They don't know what they're talking about either. Okay. So we're just going to ignore what they say because they are clearly uninformed. All right. That's all right. You don't know what you don't know, but that's why your girl's here to tell you what I know. All right. These are facts. So let's pivot to the next most common myth. Okay. And this one really bothers me. It's that you don't have to be organized to be a project manager. Honey, what are you managing if you're not organized? If you're going to be successful in the role as a PM, you need to be meticulous in the way that you approach your work. And the reason why that's so important is because projects have so many moving parts. You're working with different teams, you're working with different skill sets, you have a ton of different management plans, you're managing the schedule, you're managing tasks, the budget, quality constraints. There's all these different moving parts. And if you're not organized, you are going to struggle, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that project managers have to do everything. Our expertise is specifically in managing the project and managing teams to make sure that they're successful, all right? But the best way for you to do that is to have a detailed approach to the work that you're doing. If you're one of those people that's like, oh, I keep everything a mess because that's how I know where everything is. Honey, work is not the place for that. If you keep everything a mess at your house, that's one thing, all right? We don't all need to know about what you got going on there. But when you're at work, you have to have everything organized because it's not just you having to work with what you've built, right? It's all the people on your team, it's your resources, it's your sponsors, it's your stakeholders, it's your vendors. You have all these different people involved, so you have to have a structured approach. If you are not naturally inclined to being organized, this is a skill that you can learn, okay? But you're gonna have to put the effort in, you're gonna have to put the work in to make sure that you can develop this. It's a muscle, it has to be exercised, all right? So if people tell you, hey, you can be a mess and have things all over the place and still be successful as a project manager, honey, I want you to know those are lies, okay? I hate to bust your bubble, but I want you to be successful, so I got to give you the game up front, all right? You need to be organized. You need to have a meticulous approach to your way of working. Well, now let's talk about the next myth, okay? This is another one that I hear a lot from you guys is you're so worried about the technical skill set. You're like, I don't know what software I'm supposed to know. I don't know what systems I have to learn. What if I don't speak the language of a techie? I'm not going to be ready to be a project manager. This is a common myth because the most important part of being a PM is not your technical skill set, it's your soft skill set. 90% of the role is going to be communication. And that sounds easy, but think about it. You're going to be communicating with people that have all different types of preferred communication methods and personalities. And if you're not the type of person who can adapt to different ways of communicating, you will struggle, okay? Not everybody is the same way. You're going to be working with some introverts, you're going to be working with some extroverts, You'll be working with technical resources. You'll be working with business resources, right? Some people are more outspoken and direct, and some people are a little bit more conservative and they really don't want to speak out. You have to know how to communicate with all these different parties. You also have to know how to adjust your tone upward, because the same way that you rally your resources and gas your team up is not going to be the same way that you engage with a superior or with your sponsor. So you have to be able to adjust your tonality up, and you have to be able to adjust your tonality down as well. It's the same thing with nonverbal communication, okay? So if you're talking about written communication and emails, and you're the type of person who, when you send an email to somebody, they email you back and they say, I don't know what the hell you just said because the grammar ain't there. There's no capital letters. It's just one long run-on sentence. Honey, that's going to be a problem, okay? You need to make sure that your writing skills are on par as well. You're going to be sending a ton of emails, right? You want to make sure that you come across very professional in the way that you communicate. And another thing is 90% of the communication that we do is body language, okay? So the whole reason I'm bringing that up is because sometimes I talk to y'all and y'all will say something like, girl, I'll say something, but I just can't hide how I feel on my face. Well, it might be time for you to practice fixing your face, all right? And what we mean by that is when you're communicating with other people, you don't want to come across as being angry or as being upset or as being annoyed, right? Your job is to facilitate the success of your team. And the best way for you to do that is to engage them in a manner that makes them feel appreciated and makes them feel good about the work that they're doing. If you always have the sourpuss face on, that can be a problem. Now, for all of my RBF girls out there, for those of you who don't know what RBF stands for, it's resting B face. Okay, that can be challenging for us. Trust me, I have RBF real bad, but when I get into the workplace, I always make it a point to put a smile on my face, even if I'm conveying some information that I know isn't going to be that well received. Your communication skills will always outweigh your technical skill set. Always, okay? The way in which you communicate dictates the way that people engage with you, and it's also going to help convey the messages that you want to get across, whether they're positive or negative, all right? Now, last but not least is going to be the funniest myth that I hear, and that's that you have to be a Scrum Master first to be a project manager. Where are y'all hearing this from? Honestly, I can't even really quite determine the root of where this myth came from. Scrum is a framework within Agile, okay? Agile is a project management methodology. When you are transitioning into becoming a project manager, you have to learn Agile as a methodology. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. You can't specialize in something unless you know the foundational skill sets. If you try to become a Scrum Master with the intentions of eventually being a project manager, you are putting the cart before the horse, okay? It doesn't quite make sense. The math is not mathing, all right? So make sure that you are actually learning the foundational pieces first before you go into any level of specialization. Now, those are the top 5 myths that I've heard, but I would love for you guys to drop some more myths that you know in the comments, all right? And if you have any more questions about transitioning into project management, what that looks like, any barriers that you may face, let your girl know in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you guys. Like, subscribe to this video, send it to your friends if you think it's gonna be beneficial. But I just gave you the game, and all you have to do now is run the play. In the meantime, in between time, I'll see you later.